Welcome to Learning from Experience, a podcast for college students and recent grads who want to hear directly from alumni on how they adjusted their lives post-graduation, including personal stories of success, career readiness, and tips for navigating the real world. I'm Allison Connell, Director of Marketing and Communications for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I'll be talking with Amanda Ventura Zink, who graduated from the college in 2011 with a degree in English. Amanda is a public affairs manager for Waymo, where she helps lead the world's first public education campaign about autonomous vehicles, called Let's Talk Autonomous Driving. Before joining Waymo, Amanda worked as a reporter and editor for publications in Metro Phoenix and was a public relations director at an agency in Scottsdale. Amanda lives in South Phoenix with her husband and two Arizona Animal Welfare League alums, Lieutenant Barkley and Cabo. So today, Amanda will be sharing a bit more about her journey after graduation and how she has been able to use her degree to give back. So to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and your current position?
So thanks for having me today on this podcast. I am the public affairs manager at Waymo, which is an autonomous driving technology company.
So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do there and also about your background leading into this position?
So at Waymo, as a public affairs manager, I help run our public education campaign called Let's Talk Autonomous Driving. We started in 2017 partnering with national and local nonprofit organizations around a shared mission and belief that autonomous driving technology can save lives, improve independence for people who can't drive themselves, and increase access to mobility. So it's a really exciting and rewarding role that I have at this company. My journey after college actually started in the reporting world. So I was a journalist at a weekly publication called The College Times, where I covered community news. And shortly after that, I became the editor of the publication, and I continued to write and freelance for other magazines in the Metro Phoenix area. And then I found another job at another magazine and started getting really into business reporting and writing. So that was pretty aligned with, the kinds of internships that I had in college. But, just like anything, the deeper that you get into an industry, the more offshoots that you start to understand. And the more that I was working with public relations specialists as a journalist, I was like, wow, they have a really cool job. They get to tell this one story that I write in so many different ways. They get to think about it for TV and the visuals. They get to think about it for a daily newspaper, the harder news angles, whereas I'm writing, from a very focused business magazine perspective. So I was really attracted to this idea of helping get a message out in a lot of different ways. And I made the switch after a couple years as a journalist into PR, and I absolutely fell in love with working with so many different types of industries and then telling all these different kinds of stories. And I was really lucky to start working with this account called the Google Self-Driving Car Project pretty early on in my career. And I got to see this company evolve over 5 years. And when they told me that they were looking at someone in Arizona to bring on to their team full time, I was really excited by that opportunity. And that's why I joined Waymo.
Does your career path moving forward look different than what you were thinking after graduation?
Oh, yeah. My career path after graduation did not follow what I thought it would look like. And that's totally okay. It worked out. And I think that's what you have to trust the journey a little bit. After college, I was dead set on being the next Lester Bangs or Neil Strauss, really big music writers for Rolling Stone and other magazines. And I did do that. I wrote about musicians that were touring in Arizona and I loved it. But then I started finding other opportunities to write about more. And you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're going to fall in love with. And I just continued to follow these opportunities that were coming my way. And I think that, after college, you really have to focus on building a network. And that was something that I did a little bit of in college, but after college, it became so important. And it's what led me to where I am today. You hear about odd jobs that you wouldn't maybe be exposed to any other way, but through someone that you've talked to once or twice before. And those kinds of connections are so valuable.
Now, Waymo, how has this position and your experiences there allowed you to give back?
So there's not a day that goes by at Waymo where it's not part of my job to think about, how we could be giving back with our technologies. So my job really revolves around working with nonprofit organizations that care about educating the community, but it's also about reaching out to the community, being a part of the community. And so I'm really proud of one of the efforts that I helped start at Waymo, which was our charitable delivery program. And after COVID, we had these vehicles on the road, and we were thinking about ways that we could put them to work for the community. And so we started partnering with organizations that needed to move PPE, that needed to move food. And we started to find that while this was a really great resource for the community, donating the use of our vehicles, it was also a really big morale booster for our colleagues. People want to be part of something bigger. They want to feel like their work is contributing to a larger cause. And so that's what really appealed to me about this role at Waymo. And it's one of the things that I love most about my job. On a personal note, working at Waymo, they also really encouraged me to give back to my personal passions. So I've been able to join young professional leagues, including, the Dean's Council at ASU for emerging leaders, and also join, young professionals boards at an animal nonprofit that I care a lot about called the Arizona Animal Welfare League. And they also, find ways to encourage you to give back. So, taking time out of your work week and rewarding their employees to, volunteer and put, their skills and resources to a better good. In some of my other roles, I didn't focus a lot on anything outside of what I was doing professionally. And that means that, I think it's about finding a balance too. Giving back helps people in the community, but it also really helps you grow. And, I think one really good example of a way that you can utilize your skills to give back is by joining a board. And, there are so many organizations now that are focused on helping young professionals, recent graduates, understand what it means to be on a board. And the unique thing about boards is that they want people to utilize their professional expertise. They are looking for accountants. They're looking for attorneys. They're looking for people who have a knack for marketing. These nonprofits run on such a shoestring budget. They want all of these donations that they get to go toward their programming. And so having a young professional or just an experienced professional offer to donate their time and expertise to help them look at their books or help them think of how they can get the word out about what they're doing, that is so valuable. And that is something that you can do. It's an inherent skill that you've learned in college that you can apply to a real world cause.
Yeah. I think that's so important. I feel like that's something when you graduate, you don't know right away. I mean, that just takes time and experience. And also when you are starting out in your career, you kind of have tunnel vision because you're just trying to work your way up and, stay within the company or the industry and, grow your salary and grow your skills, but you're not thinking about those other personal skills and the external skills and some of these things like networking that you're saying. So I think that's really important.
I think that tunnel vision it's such a great way to talk about it, Allison, because you're right. You get that tunnel vision and that's so good for your personal development. But if you are feeling burnout, it's good to have those extra outlets as well.
Let me ask, so if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
assuming my 18-year-old self would be willing to hear this advice from me, I mean, I think just generally advice to any young student is to be kind to yourself. That is so important. When you're in college, it is really easy to get caught up in so many things and to be kind of hard on yourself because you're constantly being graded. You're, experiencing so many things for the first time. You're learning how to be an adult human in the world, and it can be really overwhelming and scary. And so I think it's so important for people to check in with themselves, ask for help. But, I think that's something else that people shouldn't be afraid to do is like lift up other people they, see. And, we're talking about giving back. And I think like giving back emotionally is really great. Like lifting up people that you're meeting in college, not being afraid to like make friends in college, because a lot of times you do kind of, if you're anything like me, you probably feel a little bit competitive when, you're up, with a class full of students and you want to be the best student, you want to graduate and, be the person that everyone wants to hire. But I do think, making friends and just being kind to your classmates is so important because you never know like who you're going to see again later in life. And how it's all going to shake out.
We've had to completely adjust like in our skills to like stay with the times of like what people are being taught now, like in school. So I feel like, you're personally growing, you're growing your skills. And it's very different than what you thought it would be when you graduated.
Oh, 100% adapting to just the changing world. And I'm thinking about this too, that, just the company I'm at now, they started in 2010, which, that would have been my junior year at ASU. There's no way going into college that I could have possibly thought like, oh, I want to go work at an autonomous driving technology company because those roles at that company, didn't necessarily exist at the time. So, and I agree though, too, that just industries are changing, especially in the communication space, so quickly that one of the most important things you can learn is how to learn in college and how to think. I know that sounds really basic and kind of a little bit like a platitude or whatever, but, it's so important if you don't learn how to adapt and how to, I guess, grow, like you said, which are things that college will make you do if you're open to it. It's going to be really hard to continue to see yourself as successful, because you have to be able to redefine what success means for you and kind of what your goals are constantly.
Thinking back to my own experience, I can think of many people who've stayed on the same career path, but really, it's been more common for graduates to pivot and change, as we're growing and learning, more about what we like to do and what's really important for us.
I agree. I think they're all, thriving and I hope they're doing things that they love. But yeah, I'm so grateful that I just kind of rode the wave of, exploring new things. Because I would have never thought that I'd be working in public affairs as someone who is inherently introverted, someone who got a degree in creative writing and, was writing about community news and, wanted to interview, I used to interview posters on my wall as a kid. I really thought that I was going to be a music writer for so long, but now it's like, oh my gosh, it's just, when you're a kid, you also don't, it kind of goes back to, something I said earlier anyway, about how you don't really realize the depth of opportunities until you're in the industry working. When you're in college, there's only so much you can wrap your head around.
Thank you for joining us today and learning from Amanda's experience. If you'd like to connect with Amanda, email avzink@waymo.com or reach out on LinkedIn. To hear more alumni advice, head to our episode page wherever you listen to podcasts or visit thecollege.asu.edu/LFE podcast. See you next time.